Have you ever noticed something strange? Two men can treat the same woman kindly, say the same words, show the same attention, yet one becomes unforgettable and the other becomes invisible. Why? Because attraction is not built by effort, it is built by emotional leverage. And today, I'm going to show you the real psychological pressure points that shape attraction. The ones almost no man understands. Not manipulation, not tricks, not performance, but emotional dynamics that decide who leads the emotional frame. And yes, if Niccolò Machiavelli were alive today, this is exactly how he would study human behavior, not to dominate people, but to understand power, emotional power. Let's begin. Important warning before we start. This video is not about abusing women. It is not about lying. It is not about pretending to be someone you are not. It is about understanding emotional structure, because the man who understands emotional structure never needs to beg, chase, convince, or perform. Weakness 1. Emotional certainty feels safer than emotional intensity. Most men try to excite. They create jokes. They create compliments. They create emotional spikes. But deep attraction is not built on excitement. It is built on emotional certainty. Here is the weakness. A woman's nervous system is constantly scanning for emotional stability. Not boredom, not routine. Stability, when your emotional tone does not jump when she pulls closer and does not collapse when she pulls away. You quietly become emotionally anchoring. You do not rush to fill silence. You do not chase emotional validation. You do not emotionally lean on her reactions. Your emotional center stays untouched. That creates an unconscious signal. This man is not moved by chaos. And chaos is one of the strongest hidden fears inside romantic attraction. Weakness 2. She becomes emotionally curious when she cannot fully read you. Most men leak everything. Their interest, their expectations, their emotional need, their disappointment. Nothing is held. There is no emotional privacy. But emotional curiosity is activated when information is incomplete. Not coldness, not distance. Emotional privacy. You respond fully, but not emotionally desperately. You speak honestly, but you do not narrate your inner emotional state. This creates psychological space, and psychological space is where curiosity grows. If she already knows exactly how you feel, exactly what you want, exactly how you will respond, there is nothing for her mind to explore. Curiosity is not created by mystery games. It is created by emotional containment. Weakness 3. She emotionally invests faster when she feels chosen, not chased. Chasing communicates this. I need your response to regulate how I feel. Choosing communicates something very different. I enjoy you, but I don't require you to feel whole. A woman feels it instantly when she is being pursued for emotional safety. And here is the uncomfortable truth. Being needed does not feel romantic. It feels heavy. Being chosen feels powerful. When you give attention slowly, when you do not emotionally overconfirm, when your interest is calm and selective, her emotional system experiences something rare. Being valued without being responsible. That creates emotional safety. And emotional safety opens emotional investment. Weakness 4. Her attraction grows when you do not emotionally reward inconsistency. This is where most men fail. When a woman becomes distant, hot and cold, slow in replies, most men react. They compensate. They send more messages. They become nicer. They try harder. Your emotional reaction becomes her emotional regulator. But emotional inconsistency that still receives emotional reward gets repeated. The psychological weakness is simple. The human brain reinforces what gets emotional payoff. When your emotional tone stays stable, when you do not punish distance, and you do not reward emotional withdrawal, you silently communicate. I only emotionally engage with consistency. That instantly raises your emotional value, not by punishment, by standards. Weakness 5. She is deeply influenced by how you respond to emotional pressure. Life will apply pressure. Misunderstandings, tension, silence, conflict. Most men become defensive. They justify. They explain. They emotionally argue. A woman unconsciously watches one thing during emotional friction. Does this man stay grounded? If you can listen without collapsing into emotional urgency, if you can speak without trying to win, you signal emotional leadership. Leadership is not dominance. It is emotional stability under stress, and stability is magnetic. Weakness 6. She opens faster when you do not try to fix her emotions. This one is subtle, and most men miss it completely. When she vents about her job in London, when she tells you about drama with her friends in Toronto, when she says she feels overwhelmed, confused, or unsure, most men panic internally. They think, I need to solve this. So they coach, they correct, they analyze, they offer strategies, they turn into a therapist, a motivational speaker, or a problem solver. But emotionally, that feels like interruption, because in that moment she is not asking for solutions, she is asking for emotional space. Here's the weakness most men don't understand. Human beings bond with the person who can hold their emotion without trying to control it. When Emily tells you she's exhausted and frustrated with work, and you immediately say, well, you should just talk to your boss, or you're overthinking it, she doesn't feel supported. She feels managed, and being managed does not create closeness. It creates subtle distance. But when you respond differently, when you slow down, when you say, that sounds heavy, I can see why that would drain you. Yeah, that would frustrate me too. Something shifts. You're not fixing. You're not correcting. You're not minimizing. You're allowing. And that allowance does something powerful to her nervous system. Her body relaxes. Because you didn't interrupt her emotional experience. You respected it. Most men think attraction is built through performance. But emotional trust is built through presence. In Los Angeles, Sarah might be stressed about family expectations. In Manchester, Olivia might be overwhelmed by uncertainty in her life. In Sydney, she might be questioning her direction. If you jump into solution mode, you accidentally communicate, I'm uncomfortable with your emotions. But when you can sit calmly, when you can maintain grounded eye contact, when you can listen without rushing to repair, you communicate something deeper. I am stable enough to handle what you feel. That is rare. Because most men feel anxious when emotions rise. They try to lower the emotional intensity quickly. They want the discomfort to disappear. But emotional leadership is not about eliminating discomfort. It's about containing it. And containment creates safety. When she feels that you are not overwhelmed by her stress, not irritated by her tears, not rushing her vulnerability, she begins to open more. Not because you gave brilliant advice, but because she felt emotionally uninterrupted. There is a psychological reason for this. When someone mirrors and acknowledges our feelings, the brain registers validation. Validation reduces internal threat signals. Reduced threat equals increased bonding. Her nervous system literally associates you with calm regulation. You become the stable presence, and emotional stability is attractive. It signals strength without dominance, confidence without control, leadership without pressure. James in New York tries to impress with solutions. Daniel in Toronto tries to win by proving he's competent. Michael in London tries to help constantly. But the man who simply listens, the man who says, I'm here, tell me more, that makes sense. He becomes different. Because he doesn't treat her emotions as problems to solve. He treats them as experiences to witness. And witnessing is intimacy. When she feels fully heard without being corrected, something powerful happens. She starts trusting you with deeper layers. First stress, then fear, then insecurity, then past wounds. Because you didn't rush her, you held space. And when a woman feels emotionally safe, attachment grows naturally, not forced, not chased, not engineered. Trust becomes emotional attachment. So next time she vents, don't perform, don't fix, don't rush into strategy mode. Slow down, listen, mirror, acknowledge. Let her feel without interference, because sometimes the strongest move you can make is not solving her emotions. It's proving you are strong enough to sit inside them without trying to escape. Weakness 7. She becomes more bonded when she feels emotionally free, not emotionally secured. This sounds backwards, but emotional freedom is more powerful than emotional security. When she knows she is not trapped by your expectations, your timelines, your emotional demands, her emotional system relaxes. There is no pressure to perform affection. There is no responsibility for your happiness. That emotional freedom allows genuine desire to appear. Neediness kills desire. Freedom protects it. Weakness 8. She becomes more responsive when your life does not reorganize around her. This is brutal but necessary. When your schedule collapses for her, when your routines bend instantly, when your life pauses emotionally, You become emotionally absorbable, not attractive. A grounded life creates emotional gravity. Your work, your training, your projects, your friendships, your structure. They show that romance is not your emotional center. It is a complement, not a foundation. Women do not want to become your emotional infrastructure. They want to join your life, not become your life. Weakness 9. She feels deeper attraction when you can walk away emotionally, without hostility. This is one of the strongest leverage points, not threatening to leave, not manipulating distance, but genuinely being able to accept misalignment. When something no longer feels aligned, you do not emotionally negotiate for connection. You do not pressure closeness. You stay kind. You stay respectful. You stay grounded. But you remain willing to release. This communicates something extremely powerful. I value connection, but I value myself more. And self-value is the core of attraction. Weakness 10. She bonds more when your emotional approval is not easily earned. Not arrogance. Not emotional unavailability, but emotional discernment. You appreciate her, but you do not over-celebrate minimal effort. You compliment intentionally. You respond selectively. You show emotional warmth, but not emotional inflation. Why? Because emotional rewards that require no emotional behavior lose psychological meaning. When your approval has emotional weight, her emotional system registers it as valuable. Weakness 11. The deepest one. Emotional stability without emotional dependence. This is the final principle, and it is the one most men fail after doing everything right. When attraction begins to grow, men shift. Their energy becomes softer. Their boundaries loosen. Their availability expands suddenly. Their emotional posture changes. High-quality women notice emotional shifts instantly. Here is the real psychological power move. Remain emotionally centered even as connection deepens. Do not collapse your emotional structure into romantic anticipation. Do not reorganize your emotional life around possibility. Do not emotionally lean into future fantasy. You remain the same emotionally grounded man. Before attraction, during attraction, and after attraction. This communicates internal leadership, not emotional need. Not fear of loss, but emotional self-sufficiency. And emotional self-sufficiency is one of the strongest long-term attraction triggers that exists. Machiavelli understood something most men still miss. Machiavelli was not obsessed with cruelty. He was obsessed with structure. He studied how human behavior changes under emotional pressure. He understood that power is not loud. It is stable. It is predictable to the person who holds it, and unpredictable to the person who depends on it. In modern relationships, emotional power is not about control over others. It is about control over yourself, your reactions, your emotional rhythm, your boundaries, your identity. The man who controls his emotional structure never needs to manipulate, never needs to chase, never needs to perform masculinity. His presence alone communicates emotional leadership. Final reminder: none of these weaknesses are about women being broken, shallow, or emotionally fragile. They are not flaws. They are not tricks. They are not buttons you press. They are human patterns. They come from how the nervous system protects itself, how the mind searches for emotional safety, how people instinctively move toward what feels grounded and away from what feels unstable. Men respond to these same dynamics too. Men also feel calmer around emotional certainty. Men also feel drawn to emotional maturity. Men also trust people who do not emotionally collapse under pressure. This is not female psychology. This is human psychology expressed inside attraction. But in romantic dynamics, something very specific happens. When a man becomes emotionally stable in a world full of emotional noise, he immediately stands apart. Noise is everywhere now. Oversharing, emotional dumping, constant validation seeking, reactive texting, emotional over-explaining, fear of silence, fear of distance, fear of being misunderstood, fear of being alone. Most people are emotionally broadcasting all the time. Their moods are public. Their insecurities are visible. Their attachment is loud. Their emotional hunger leaks into every interaction. So when a woman meets a man who is emotionally centered, a man whose tone does not shift when attention shifts, a man whose confidence does not rise and fall with messages, a man who does not need emotional reassurance to stay calm, a man who can enjoy connection without clinging to it, her nervous system notices the difference immediately. Not consciously, not logically, physiologically, because emotional stability feels like safety. It feels like order. It feels like something solid in a world that feels emotionally chaotic. That is why this man quietly becomes rare. Not because he is louder, not because he is dominant, not because he is impressive on the surface, but because emotional self-control is now uncommon. He quietly becomes respected, not through demanding respect, not through status, not through posturing, but through consistency, through the way he handles silence, through the way he handles tension, through the way he handles misunderstanding, through the way he handles emotional pressure without becoming reactive, needy, or defensive. And finally, he quietly becomes chosen, not because he tries harder than other men, but because he feels lighter to be around. There is no emotional burden in his presence. There is no pressure to regulate his mood. There is no responsibility for his emotional stability. There is only calm, clarity, and emotional grounding. And in attraction, the man who can offer emotional stability without emotional dependence, without emotional control, without emotional hunger, will always be more powerful than the man who offers intensity, attention, and effort alone. If this video made you see your past relationships differently, make sure you subscribe, like, and watch this channel until the end. Because the psychology you are learning here can change the way you connect for the rest of your life. And remember this, a woman is not attracted to how hard you try. She is attracted to how emotionally whole you remain while you try. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.